Hi, everyone, and welcome. My name is Marvin Jenkins, and I'm the coordinator for the Women's Business Center for Maryland Capital Enterprises. We are a nonprofit organization, and we assist entrepreneurs who are either starting a new business or expanding their existing business. We service the Eastern Shore of Maryland, plus Baltimore City, Baltimore County, and Anne Arundel County. I know we've also added Harford County, and there's one other county that escapes me right now. But anyway, we offer a lot of educational programs and workshops like the one you're on today, one-on-one counseling and consulting, as well as business loan assistance. We have an office in Baltimore, and we have an office also in Salisbury, Maryland. I put my link in the chat, and once this is over, I will send you a copy of the link so that you can have it, if you want to go back and watch it again. And I'll also send you some other information on our YouTube channel that has a lot of other classes that we've held in the past. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rosalind Davis, and she's going to be presenting the MBE, DBE, and SBE workshop. This is part one of two parts. So with that, and Rosalind, we really appreciate everything that she does for us. She's been doing this for a while, and she's the expert. So if you have any questions at the end, please make sure that you ask them. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Rosalind.
All right. Thank you very much, Marvin. I appreciate that. Hello, everyone. I want to thank you again for joining today. We had about a little over a dozen sign up, so you may see people trickling in, but we will keep moving. So I am Rosalind Davis. I'm the president and CEO of Rhoda Business Solutions. We are award-winning consulting firm, and we specialize in operational improvement services, workforce development, and also administrative support. We are a certified woman-owned, veteran-owned, and minority-owned small business located here in the Washington, D.C. metro area. But more importantly, what qualifies us is we are Mbe.Dbe.Sbe certified as well. I always want to thank the Maryland Capital Enterprise Women Business Center, Lisa Twilley, and Marvin Jenkins for providing this training platform. As he's mentioned, I've been doing this for a couple of years now. So I appreciate them continue to provide this platform so that we can get more businesses certified for Maryland Mbe.Dbe.Sbe certification. I want to start with a disclaimer. So the screenshots that you'll see in this presentation are actual screen captures from the Mbe.Dbe.Sbe certification online application. But the views and opinions expressed today during this webinar are the views and opinions of mine, and there are not any views or opinions of the government or any other entity. Now, if you haven't done so already, I recommend that you maximize your screen. If you go to the top right corner of your Zoom, switch to the standard view to enhance your visibility of some of the screenshots. And at certain times, I'll take a pause and see if there's any questions. You can put your questions in the chat. You can raise your hand. Marvin will see it. He will call on you. So you do not have to wait to the end for your questions. And with that, we'll get started. So here's our agenda. We're going to talk about the application process as whole. We're going to talk about the eligibility to apply for the certification. We're going to get into some required information and documentations that you use to support the information that you provide. We're going to give you an application overview of the uniform certification. We're also going to talk about certain certification information, some general information, and these are all different sections of the application, and we're going to walk through each of those sections one by one and give you the details that you need to help get your application through the reviewers and get to that final approval. And then we're going to end with some final key takeaways. Now, one thing I want to point out that, as Marvin said, this is a two-part series. So part one, we're going to talk about the application process. And part two, we're going to go into more details as to the documentation that's required that you have to upload into the system. Now, there is no cost to apply for Mbe.Dbe.Sbe certification. So keep that in mind. You will probably get a lot of people saying that they can help you get certified, but it is a free certification. It just takes a little bit of time and patience to get through the application, but it is free. You must be a for-profit company with current business operations in order to apply for the certification. It is a four-step process. The first step is the application submission. And then two is the investigation to include an on-site or a virtual visit and an interview to make sure that the information that you have entered into your application is valid, that there's a valid business, you have an office or some type of structure. And then step three is the evaluation to see if you meet the eligibility requirements based on the information that you have entered into your application. And then the final step is determination. This is where you get your decision level, whether you were approved or denied for certification. Right now, this whole certification is taking about 6 months for Mbe.Dbe.Sbe to render decisions. So keep that in mind as you apply for your application and your certification, especially if you're looking at an opportunity that's going to come out in the next 2 months and it has a Mbe.Dbe.Sbe certification goal and you want to apply for it. So it's not a quick process. So just starting the process. So again, Mbe.Dbe.Sbe is the state's official certification agency for companies that are seeking the Minority Business Enterprise, MBE, the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, DBE, the Airport Concessions Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, or the ACDBE, and the Small Business Enterprise, SBE certifications. Herein, I will refer to this as the MBE, DBE, ACDBE, and SBE certifications, or just Mbe.Dbe.Sbe certifications in general to encompass all of those certifications. The Office of Minority Business Enterprise, they highly recommend that you apply for all of those certifications at the same time. And that's what that uniform certification application is about. So instead of doing each one of those separately, because some of the information is the same, it's easier to just apply for 3 or 4 of these at one time if they are applicable to you so that you can get the approval and not have to wait 6 months in between each. And then if you want to do business at the airport, there is a separate information that you have to complete for the ACDBE certification as well. Now, if your company is headquarters outside of Maryland, you must be certified by a governmental agency in your home state before applying for certification in Maryland. So there's some reciprocity there, but you need to make sure that you're first certified in your home state. You also may need to meet additional requirements in order to do business in Maryland, such as being registered and in good standing with Maryland. So keep those additional requirements on hand if you are not a Maryland-based business. So for today's training, I'm going to focus on creating an account and applying for a new certification. This is starting from scratch as if you have never applied for Mbe.Dbe.Sbe certification. So you have to start by creating an account. So in the section 1, it'll give you the business lookup. Once you enter your business tax ID, the system is going to check to see if your company is already listed in the database. So in this case, because this is a new application, a match was not found. So you're going to continue to create an account. And some people may ask, where do you get that business tax ID from? Well, you get that from irs.gov. It's sometimes referred to as your employee ID number or your EIN. And I want to point out, getting that EIN number is also free. You just apply at irs.gov. You enter your business name and some other additional information. The application only takes maybe 15 minutes at most, but the one thing about the irs.gov applying for the EIN is it's a one-time sitting, so you can't save your information and come back to complete it. So make sure you have all the required information before you apply for your EIN. So account creation, at a minimum, you will need to complete all the fields with asterisk as highlighted here on this slide. So your business name, your company type, so whether it's an LLC, whether it's a sole proprietor, whereas it's a corporation, you will need to select the appropriate company type. For this training, I'm going to focus on LLC because the majority of companies that tend to come through this training, they are LLCs. So account creation. Again, continue to complete all the fields that you will see on the screen with asterisk, such as your name, your email, your phone number, and then you also need to create a password. So now once you create your account, you're going to see this welcome screen. This is the Maryland Department of Transportation Office of Minority Business Enterprise is pleased to announce the implementation of the new Certification Management System, CMS, and is accessed through a cloud-based web portal. On this certification program, you'll see that in the part that is highlighted here is going to give you an explanation of the different certification programs there. So right here in the middle where it says DBE, ACDBE, SBE, and MBE, kind of give you a quick synopsis of what each program is about. If you want to get additional information, the buttons are here at the bottom where you can click on each one of them to review the eligibility requirements. So in the next few slides, I'm going to highlight some standard applicable eligibility requirements that is regardless of which certification you apply for. Marvin, I'm going to pause right there and see if there's any questions.
None so far. You must be doing good.
We're going to go into determining the eligibility. We're going to go over some rules, what makes you eligible. So for one, your ownership. You must be at least 51% owner of the company in order to apply for the MBE certification. Your minority status. You must be in one of the protected classes that are listed here on this slide. And this is applicable to the MBE certification only. So don't confuse this as if you can apply for the airport concession or the small business or the other certifications. So that is the minority status for MBE. And now the dollar threshold for 2025 is now 2 million. So that is a big change for 2025. And then later in the application process, you're going to need to upload a resume. So here on the slide where it says management and control, it specifically says that you must be the one who gives the direction, the management and policies of the firm and make the day-to-day decisions. I want to make sure that you highlight that in your application because that specific language needs to be in your resume because they will look for that. So your personal net worth for your DBE, ACDBE is lower than the MBE dollar threshold. So just kind of keep that in mind. It's still at about 2 million, but it's just a little less than the MBE dollar threshold. So the same for your SBE certification LLB standards. The personal net worth is the same for DBE and ACDBE. All right, required information and documents. So based on your company structure, such again, is it a sole proprietorship, is it LLC, is it partnership, is it corporation, they have checklists on their website that you can download and review the applicable checklist. But also part of that checklist that you download, you're going to need to fill it out. Unfortunately, it's not a fillable PDF document. You're going to have to fill it out by hand because you're going to have to turn around and upload that particular checklist into the system. So listed here on this slide are some common documentation that you're going to need regardless of certification and the type of structure of your company. There used to be 2 documents that required notarization, though that is no longer required. Also, the preference is for you to electronically submit all documents via the online application portal. So make sure that you have access to the internet. I suggest that you create a folder on your desktop that maybe says Mbe.Dbe certification. And once you go through the checklist, put those required documents into that folder so that when you start your application, it's easy to find the information that you need to get through your application. So again, you're going to need the affidavit of certification. It is a form. It's available for download inside the application. Your state business registration documents to show that you actually registered with the state. Resume, resume of the owner, but if there's also directors or other individuals who are in the day-to-day management of the company. Proof of citizenship, they're looking for perhaps a passport. Your personal net worth statement, it's downloadable on the application portal as well for you to fill out. It is a fillable form. However, it doesn't do the calculation, the mathematical calculations for you. So you'll have to do that manually and enter the numbers. They also want you to upload 3 years of your personal federal tax returns and then 5 years of your business federal tax returns. And I'm going to tell you later on, if you don't have those 2, 3 years or 5 years, because your business has only been operational for 1 or 2 years and not all of the requirements, I'm going to show you what you need to do to make sure that your application gets through the reviewer process if those don't apply to you. You're also going to need 3 years a year in financial statements. You're going to need a bank signature authorization form or letter from your bank. And then you're going to need your vehicle title or your registration plus insurance if you use your vehicle for business. And then you're also going to need some licenses and contracts as well. But I'm going to get into each one of these documents in detail, definitely in part 2 of the training. Marvin, I'm going to pause right there to see if there's any questions.
We got one now. Do all owners have to provide that info?
Yes. So the majority owner, the 51% owner, will be the one that's completing the application. And there will be a instance, and I'll show you, where you would enter other owners of the company in the share that they own as well. But you will need their resumes too. And you would look at the applicable checklist that applies to your company structure. All right, again, download and print the application for reference as you proceed through the online process. So make sure that you download the right company structure for your company and go through that checklist. So in this UCA submission screen, it says select an option. It's going to ask you about your firm's location. Again, for this training session, we're going to assume you are seeking certification for the first time. So you're going to click on your firm is not currently certified by Mbe.Dbe and that your firm is located in Maryland and you are seeking certification. So you want to click submit a uniform application. Again, that uniform application allows you to complete all 3 or 4 at the same time. There will be a point where if one doesn't apply, you'll just won't check that particular application. And again, if your company is not located in Maryland, you're going to need to register your business in Maryland, then return to complete your online certification application if you're not already certified in another state. Now, listed on the screen, again, is that 4-step process that I talked about at the beginning, what stages your application goes through. Once you had created your account, you'll see now that your business name is pre-populated from previous information that you entered. There will be some other information that's going to autofill and pre-populate as well, such as your email address, your company type, so that way you don't have to continue to enter that information as you proceed through the application. So on this one, it's asking for the eligibility evaluation. So by answering each of these questions, it's going to help determine if you should apply for certification before you even get started. One key thing is if you are a not-for-profit business, do not proceed because your business is not eligible for certification. It's only for for-profit businesses. So the next few slides that I'm going to go over have the overall application instructions. So something that I want to point out on this screen is if you're unable to provide documents because it is not applicable, then use a Word document or PDF to state so. And I'm going to show you later on how to get through uploading documents that don't apply. So on here, your document notification, you'll see where it'll tell you what day you started your application and then how much time you have to complete your application as well. So make sure you keep that in mind because again, if you don't complete your application within that allotted time that you give you, they will delete your application and you will have to start over from scratch. Mandatory documents. So this is just a list of some of the mandatory documents, but due to time constraints, I'm not going to go through this list of documents in details because these are going to be covered extensively in part 2 of this training. This part will go through the questions that they ask you, which are mandatory or optional questions. Again, another list of documents that I'm going to go into detail in part 2. So this slide is just a review of your application. It's going to give you your application number at the top of the screen. You want to make note of that application number because as I show you how to create a Word document so that you can respond to documents that don't apply to you, it's easier to refer to the application number just in case it gets lost somewhere in the system. Now, here are some additional instructions before you begin your application. So over to the far right of the screen, I kind of pointed out some sections. So you'll see that if you ever have a question, you see that it's red, then that is mandatory. You must answer that question. Yellow is optional. So if it applies to your business structure, then you would answer that question. If it don't, it will be not applicable. And green shows that it is a completed question. So this kind of gives you a quick visual color coding. If you have completed your application or a particular section, it helps you quickly visualize where you stand in completing your application. You cannot leave any blanks on the application as well. So again, once you see all green, that's an indication that you have completed those areas. I also would recommend that you save often because with internet, other things that may happen, you don't want to lose the information that you've already entered. So save your draft or you can click save and return to the summary and it'll give you a visual as to where you're at with your application, but just continue to save definitely after you complete each section. So again, this is a visual representation. As you can see, this is the start of a new application. So everything right now is red. Once you complete the section, it's going to turn green. And so at the end of your application, you want to see all of this green. As a matter of fact, if it's not all green, you will not be able to sign and submit your application. So with that, Marvin, I'm going to pause and see if there's any questions.
I don't know. Diamond's got her hand up. She was the one that asked the first question. I don't know if that was why she had her hand up or not, but if she wants to go ahead and
Okay. Great day, everyone. So yes, I'm going back to the original question about because I wanted some clarity on. I know you have to be 51% owner, but you specifically said you have to be responsible for the day-to-day activities or show or demonstrate that, right? And
Yes,
you
in your resume.
in your resume, right? So then you also said like when you're starting to upload like the additional stuff like the financials and all that. So my question was, if the owner, the 51% owner, handles all those things, the other, what is it, 49% ownership, be it if it's two people or one person, will they have to give their financials and all of this financial stuff? I know you said they would have to provide their resume, but will they have to provide all the other things that the owner, the 51% owner, provides?
If they are a stakeholder in the company, yes, but if they're just like a board member, no. But if they have an ownership stake in the company, yes.
Okay, so everybody that has ownership stake, which is somebody that not necessarily is even doing the operations or whatever, but they benefit financially from whatever the company earns. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I just want to make it clear. All right, thank you.
You're welcome. A
All
good
right.
question, good question. Okay, so basic contact information. This is starting section 1 of the application. Again, off to the far right, you'll see where it's red because it'll say required. Some of them are yellow where it's optional. You have to answer all the questions that are required. Uh, and as you continue to enter information, the color coding will change to green. So again, a good visual representation on where you're at in completing your application. So with section 1 complete, your basic contact information, you'll see that the check mark now turns to green right there at the top. Again, always refer back to see where you are in completing your application. And you can consider this like a dashboard. So certs and application. Prior to, this is going to ask you, do you have any prior other certifications or applications with Mbe.Dbe.Sbe? This is where you will make the selection on the type of certification you're applying for. Again, you can do the uniform certification application and do MBE, DBE, SBE, and ACDBE, or if those don't apply to you, select which ones that you want to apply for. But you must answer each question on this particular screen because they're all mandatory questions. Again, with more mandatory questions on this screen here. Now we're moving into section 2, general information. So business offerings, this is asking about your business profile. It's going to ask you to enter a brief description of what your company offers. So whatever your services or product is that you offer, you're just going to enter a brief description. And then you're going to use the select code link to search for your applicable North American Industry Classification Code, or NAICS codes. And these are what applies to the products or services that you are trying to sell to the government. If you have more than one NAICS code that you need to use the additional option to select more NAICS codes. So you can select as many as you need for your business. Now, and again, your resume, you want to make sure if you select the NAICS code that your resume also reflects that NAICS code that you enter as well, because they will review that to make sure that there is no mismatch. Continue with your business profile. This information is pretty much self-explanatory. For the date for your establish or own, you can use the same date that it has been established and owned if that applies. Want to point out again that if you are not for profit, do not proceed because your business is not eligible, so don't waste your time completing the application. Continue with the business profile. So here is asking for your number of employees. So include yourself as one of the types of employees. As highlighted on this slide, you'll also need to upload a document with the list of employees per category per title, and dates of employment. So it could be a spreadsheet that you have PDF'd, and that is what you're going to upload when you get to the documents section. You're also going to need to attach 5 years of federal tax returns. If you just started and you don't have 5 years, you're gonna have to type a letter stating that no federal tax return, because perhaps your business started in 2023 and you only have 2024. I'm gonna show you how you answer that question when it comes to the documentation. So section 2, general information. This is talking about the relationships and dealings with other business. So for each question, as you can see, it's mandatory. So answer each one as appropriate and then click save and return so that you can advance to the next section. And the way this application is set up, section 1 through 3 or 4 is basically asking you questions. Section documentation is basically asking you to upload supporting documentation to support those answers that you have already provided. So that's what they're looking for. Again, asking you more information about other businesses that you may be tied to. Most of these questions are self-explanatory, but they are mandatory. Section 3, majority owner. In this section, you would click the majority owner information section. If you have additional owners, you would just click add owner again to add those additional owners. But that's how you at least enter the first individual, by clicking the add owner button. So complete all the areas here in red. Some information, again, has been pre-populated from previous sections that you've entered your information. If you don't own stock, click not applicable. And you can use your start date as the date acquired, but do not leave it blank. So if you don't own stock, you just click NA. You can use the date that you actually started your company as the date to enter there. So enter 0 as applicable if you did not have any initial investment to start your business. If you started your business with, say, $5,000 that you deposited into a business banking account, then that's what you would enter here. But make sure you still have either that access to that bank statement, or you have the canceled check or something to show that initial investment. You also need to submit proof of how you acquired your business. For example, if you started the business yourself, then just include your state business registration documentation as proof that you started the business yourself. If you purchased it from another entity, you'll have to show that as well. And then answer all the remaining mandatory questions that are on this particular slide. The first 2 questions are green because, again, they've already been answered if you saved your answer. The important question I want to point out on this screen is the personal net worth. Please make a note of this particular section in your application, because once you complete your personal net worth form and you come up with your personal net worth number, you're going to need to make sure that number on the form matches this particular question. So it's important to make sure that those 2 match. That's why I always stress to make sure that you write this particular question down so that you can come back and enter that information if you have not completed your personal net worth form first to get your net worth. Any questions, Marvin?
No, none so far.
All right, we're going to move on to officers and board and directors. So you can enter yourself as the officer and the board of directors if that's applicable to you. Again, all the questions on this screen are mandatory. There is no fault if you are a sole proprietor and you're the only employee currently in your company. You can list yourself as the point of contact for each. Again, if you are the only employee, you can list yourself for each of these positions. You can enter the same title. If you're the president and CEO and you are the person for each of these roles, then enter that information appropriately. Section 4. So for equipment and vehicle inventory, do not include your POV as a vehicle. What they're looking for is company vehicles, such as a company vehicle that bears your company name. It could be maybe a tow truck or a U-Haul truck or something like that. That's what they're looking for, not POV. And then if you purchase office space or have a leased space, you'll need to enter that dollar amount there. Again, you're going to, at the end for documentation, you're going to need to upload a copy of that lease or a copy of the mortgage statement or the deed for the space that you have. And then when it's asking about storage space, for example, if you have like a storage warehouse for your company where you may store your products and supplies, that's what it's looking for when it says storage warehouse. Section 4, control financial information. So the first question, if you use, let's say, QuickBooks or Procrast or another type of accounting software to manage your own payroll, then the answer is no. But if you use a company, let's say ADP or Gusto or another payroll provider to manage your payroll, then the answer is yes. So keep that in mind, the difference between if you do your payroll yourself or someone else, a third-party provider, does your payroll. And then it asks you to list the individual who can sign checks for the company. You're going to need to upload your bank signature authorization form or your letter when it gets to the document section. You want to make sure that that bank signature authorization form or letter bears the bank's name, it bears your company's name, and it also has your name if you are the ones who's authorized to sign for checks for the company. Bonding. If you are a construction type company, bonding applies to you. If you select yes on sources of loans, make sure it matches the loans that are listed on your personal net worth statement, because again, this section asks all the questions. Later, you provide the documentation to support it. Section 4, control licenses and contracts. The first question asks about licenses. So it's looking for licenses such as engineers or plumbers or electricians. Now, if those apply to you or any other trades, be prepared to upload your license and or your permit certificate as well. When it comes to contracts, you'll also need to upload copies of the contracts, and it's looking for your top 3 contracts. And then additional information section, use it to identify if you were a prime contractor or a subcontractor or any other pertinent information that applies to the contract. So this is again a copy of or a picture of the dashboard, or what I'll consider the dashboard, but this is a visual representation to show you where you're at in completing your system. And what we've just done is went through section 1 through 4. Now the document list. I'm going to show you the list of mandatory documents. Again, all documents must be uploaded electronically via their online portal. We're going to go into more detail as to what these documents are about in part 2 of this workshop. So here you'll see the list of mandatory documents. And so once you attach the document, that red will turn to green to show that it has been attached. And the same thing for if applicable documents. So this is a little bit different. If it applies to you, you will upload it. I will show you in the workshop part 2, if it doesn't apply, what do you need to do to satisfy the requirement for this particular section of the application. So some key takeaways. Before we go to the key takeaways, Marvin, are there any questions?
No, none yet.
All right. So one thing I would strongly recommend, there is a lot of information that you're going to need to provide for your application. So I suggest creating a folder, perhaps on your desktop, so that you can access all those documents that you're going to need to make it easier to go through your checklist to make sure you have everything before you get started, because there is a time limit on the application. And if you exceed that time, your entire application will be deleted and you'll have to start over. Speaking of application, it is free. Again, it is free. It's just time consuming. And it's a lot of documents to gather and upload, but it is a free certification. If you apply, if you are eligible for multiple MBE, DPE, SBE, and you also want to go for the airport concession, consider completing the uniform certification application so that you can get those multiple certifications at once instead of applying for those individually. Again, it's a 4-step process that goes through each step of the application to review, to make sure all your information is correct, that you're eligible, and your final step is rendering a decision. This whole process takes about 6 months, is what I'm hearing on average right now. Required information and document. We went through the red, yellow, green coding of each question and also the documents. So that is a quick visual to show you where you're at in your application. Make sure you make note of the section 4 under the majority owner info. That's that personal net worth. You want to make sure that that number that you enter in that question matches the number on the form of your personal net worth. Now, part 2 is coming up, and that's where we'll get into a whole lot more detail as to each documentation. And once you complete your application, now they're offering you a 30-minute cursory review of your application before you actually submit it, so that you can go back and maybe correct some things that may not be accurate before you submit your application. So it's a free 30-minute cursory review. So I want to say thank you again for joining me today for part 1 of the Mbe.Dbe.Sbe certification application process. I invite you to connect with me on LinkedIn so you can be one of the first ones to know about any future webinars that the Maryland Capital Enterprise Women Business Center offer. So with that, Marvin, I'm going to pause and see if there's any questions.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, now's the time. So get all the information you can from Rosalind. She'll fill your head with it.
So I just unmuted myself. I'm raising my hand because I want us to end, but and this could kind of be like a forward-thinking question. If the entity starts off with 100% ownership that meets the qualifications, and then they decide to restructure after they've been approved for these certs, do they require them to go back in and provide, new ownership information or whatever? So I guess my question is, once you're certified, how is this maintained in terms of upkeep of, keeping up with your qualifications and all that stuff?
So once a year, you have to recertify. So on your anniversary, you have to recertify. And if there are any changes, and that's sort of a significant change, you may have to redo your entire application, but you have to recertify every year and notify them of any changes, especially if your net worth has changed.
Okay. Thank you.
And they'll send you an email about 60 days out before your certification date that you were approved. So make sure that you keep track of that, but I also put it on my own calendar just in case there's a glitch in the system and I don't get that notification. I don't want to start over again, so I make sure that there's two notifications or alerts that I get when that annual renew is up for recertification.
Are there any others that have questions? Well, I guess not. But anyway, if you do, I guess next week you can, if once I send you out the recording and then you have questions pop up, the next session is next Tuesday, the 24th. You can ask it then, or you can get in touch with me. When I send out the recording, you can go ahead and ask me a question, and I can relay it to Rosalind if you like. But anyway, now would be the time if you do have any. But I want to thank Rosalind, though. She's done this for I don't even know how long now, but she's always got so much good information, and she's helped us all these years. So want to thank her for her time today. Um, Other than that, unless anybody has any questions, uh, we'll sign off and see Rosalind next Tuesday.
All right. Thank you, Marvin. Thank you, Lisa. Please let Lisa know. Thank you again. I appreciate you guys providing this training platform. I would like to see a whole lot more Maryland business get certified so that we can go after some of those small business goals that Maryland makes sure that small businesses get a piece of the pie.
Sure, absolutely. And I thank everybody for joining us, and hope to see you on the next one, next Tuesday, the 24th, same time.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.